welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be changing out the water pump. As it always goes, the water pump is going to go in the winter time when it's cold out. So I have my heater out here to keep me warm when needed. But this is the 2008 Dodge Ram 1500. This has the 5.7 Hemi up in there. And so I'll tell you what we're going to need and what we're going to do. So what do we need up in here? So I have my monkey wrench over here, and I also have a hammer that may come in handy. Now this may be used, or we may end up using the spanner wrench over here, or both. Sometimes you're able to remove the fan off with just this and a hammer, and sometimes you may not. Let's see here, I have a couple of screwdrivers, and I have my ratchet set. You'll probably need like the 10 millimeter, the 13 millimeter, and the 15 millimeter up in here for this. Now, what are we going to need to remove? You're going to need to drain your fluid, your antifreeze, that is. We're going to need to remove the reservoir over here. We're going to need to remove the fan. We're going to need to, of course, remove the serpentine belt. We're going to need to remove the fan shroud over here. We're going to need to remove the upper hose over here, the upper radiator hose. And we will also need to remove a couple of hoses down there, the lower radiator hose and the two heater hoses as well. And I'll show you when we're up in there. So other than that, that should cover everything we're going to need to remove. Anything else that comes up, I'll address those as we reach them. So let's get started. Oh, and one last other thing you'll need a catch bucket down there to catch any antifreeze that is coming out of there when you're taking the hoses and everything off. All right, to start, after you drain your fluid out of here, just so you know, I'm not draining my fluid ahead of time. I have my bucket down there to catch any fluids that do come out, but I suggest you go ahead and just drain it from the radiator at the beginning, although I won't. I didn't call out pliers. If you have this type of hose connector, you may want some pliers just to release that over there. Or you may have the worm type clamp where you'll just need the screwdriver. So we're gonna start off first with removing this tank and this hose over here. So I'll go ahead and start with the tank. There's gonna be this 10 millimeter bolt, this 10 millimeter bolt right here. And if you look down here, you may be able to see it. There are a couple of connectors down there, plugs to for the pump. So we'll disconnect those two as well. They're just right down there, easy to access. Hey, just a little hint, when you go to remove, say, this bolt here, there's a nut on the underside, and if it starts to spin, and you need it to stay still, of course. Here, let me show you. I actually be able to see it through this little handle right here, spinning. Can I see it? There you go. Well, all you need to do is just take a flathead or something you have, and then just stick it in there and hold it while you turn it. And then there's your resolution. All right, now with both bolts removed, I'm going to reach down in here and unplug both plugs. One, just push in and pull up. Real easy. As you can see it, that's it right there. Just got that little red tab right here that you just lift up, and then you just push it in, the black tab, and pull out. And you do the same with the other one as well. They're not difficult to reach or difficult to remove. Both are now unplugged. And one other thing you want to do before taking it out, so your washer fluid over here feeds into your windshield wiper, so there's of course a hose connected to the pump, and so you just want to reach down and disconnect that hose from the pump. There we go. Now you may lose your pump fluid, so you may want to have some extra windshield wiper fluid for when you put it back up in there. There we go. There we go. And I got way too much antifreeze in there, so it'll be a good time to dump some of that out too before putting it back in. All right, so this was the hose to the pump for the windshield wiper fluid that I was talking about, and these two are the two plugs we removed. As you can see, you got the red one in there that you need to lift up, and then once that's up, then you just push in here on the black tab, and then on this other one you just lift up this red one here, and then you just push in on this gray one right here and pull off. So next we're going to remove this upper hose, and since I didn't drain lines first, I'm going to put the bucket beneath there to make sure to catch the fluid. All right, so for removing the hose over here, I still have fluid in mine, and one of my brackets we're going to have to remove this fan shroud, and you need to remove this hose right here because one of the bracket kind of has a wing on it that bolts in here that needs to be removed in order to lift it out, and that little wing would bump up against the bottom of this, maybe preventing you from lifting it out of here. So, but mine is broken. As you can see, there's a big crack here. So I won't need to do that. So I'm not going to remove this hose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my clamps here. I got these from Harbor Freight. I think it was like $5 for a pack of 3. And I'm going to clamp off my hose like so. And I'm just going to remove it from up over here at this point. So fluid will come out at this point. This is where the thermostat is at, but it'll minimize the amount of fluid coming out from this part over here. Just taking the clamp off or loosening the clamp. And if the hole's been on here for a while, which most likely it has, it's going to be kind of seized to the metal collar underneath. So you'll want to twist the hose to break that first before just trying to yank on it. I'll take this and then I'll set this upright to prevent further loss of fluid. There we go. All right, so now we can go ahead and remove the fan. The fan has to come out before the shroud can actually come off because it's actually sitting inside the shroud. The fan is sitting inside the shroud. And just remember that too when you're putting it back together, that you want to put the shroud in first and then put the fan on. If you put the fan on first, you won't be able to get the shroud on. Now, I've changed my water pump in the past, and the first time taking it off, it can be pretty hard to get off. So I don't know if you could tell, but I had when I did it last time, I put a bit of anti-seize up in there to help make it a little easier for me to get off. I'm gonna have to use my spanner wrench. All right, and if you notice, you may not be able to see from this angle up here, but you see these two nubs right here? There are 4 holes in here, and so that way you can get it from just about any position, and you just put it into those 2 holes. For here, two of the holes are lining up right here. So that will allow for me to take my spinner wrench. Oh, also notice that right there, so you can put your ratchet on there to hold it and turn it. So I will take my spinner wrench, put it in there like that, and put my ratchet on there, and that will allow me to be able to hold hold it from turning while I unscrew the fan. There we go. Hopefully you guys caught that on the camera. So now I can take the spinner wrench out of there, take this monkey claw out of there, monkey wrench, and now I reach in so that you guys can see it. See how it's turning now? So it's actually unscrewing. Go. Now we can take it out of there. As you can see, on the shroud, got one bolt up top. This is the passenger side of the vehicle. And the bottom is just a little foot that's sitting in it, resting in something. So it's just one bolt up top over here. And mine is broken again, but it will be one bolt behind this hose over here. All right, I may have said these were 10 millimeter earlier. If I misspoke. These are actually 13 millimeters. Easy to come out. All right, so with this bolt out over here and mine being broken over here, and I'm assuming you have removed yours, you probably got this hose off. Now you should be able to just lift this up and get it on out of there. All right, so now you can see all the room we have up in here. Lots and lots of room to do whatever we need to do. So from in here, we need to take off the serpentine belt. At this point, we're going to need to remove this lower radiator hose off of here. And we need to take off these two heater hoses as well. All right, before taking off your serpentine belt, you want to make sure to remember how it goes back on. So I always like to draw it out. All right, so here it is. All the pulleys, and as you can see, the belt going around those pulleys. So it's going to help out when it's time to put that serpentine belt back on. And for preparation, if you haven't changed your serpentine belt probably in a couple of years, this is probably the best time to go ahead and change it while you're already going to have it off too as well. All right, for taking off the serpentine belt, you're going to need your 3/8" ratchet. And this is one I picked up from Harbor Freight maybe a couple of years ago. been fantastic, lasts a long time, but it also telescopes, and that'll give you your leverage. So in your tensioner down here, you have the square right here, and that goes, and so you put your ratchet right on up in there. All right, and that will give you the ability to relieve that pressure off of there. You see that? And because I'm using this one with this telescoping, it gives me that leverage to easily just move it. See? Pretty effortless. It doesn't take much at all. And then once you have that off, the tension relieved, now you can go ahead and take your belt off. And I wouldn't try to leave it on there in some places because fluid may come out, and you want to have as little fluid getting on this belt as possible. You want it to last. And again, hopefully you may be changing yours because it's due anyway. All right, now that we have that off, we're almost there actually at this point. We're going to want to remove this right here, the tensioner. That's going to give us access to these two heater hoses over here. This plate right here is going to come off. I know on some Dodge rims this plate is different and may look slightly different, but that plate will need to come off too as well. Let's see here, and I'll tell you what else needs to come off as well. And I believe we're going to want to remove this idler pulley down here as well. And possibly, well, I think definitely this idler pulley. This one may stay on. All right, so to get this tensioner pulley off, we are going to need our 15 millimeter. You can see, it didn't take much effort at all. Let's see here. Next, we will go ahead and remove. Let's see here. Do I absolutely need to remove this one? I don't think so at this point. I'm taking a look. So we'll hold off. We may need to take it off. But it's a good rule of thumb, since you're in here, check your bearings on here. You know, this is wobbly, has been squeaking. You know, this is the best time to check just to see, because this is the perfect time to change it. You know, see, it's just one bolt, pop it off. You can put a new idler pulley on there in just, you know, a minute or two. So back to what we need to. Why don't we go ahead and remove this bracket over here. Maybe 13 millimeters for these over here. bracket just comes right on out. All right, next we're going to remove this idler pulley, because this idler pulley would need to get transferred over to your new pump. There we go. Make sure you have that little bearing or that little spacer, because it's going to need to go up in there. Next, we're going to remove the large lower radiator hose and the 2 heater hoses. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clamps again, and I'm going to clamp off both of those hoses. And remember to twist it first. Get myself a little extra room for twisting. Go. I'm going to do the other heater hose. Broke it free. And I didn't have a clamp for this one, so I'm gonna take one of these wine bottle corks and just stick in there. Now the last one is your big lower radiator hose. Let's grab that one and twist it as well. So you know, this is the perfect time too to check the condition of your lower hose and your upper hose, because this will be, again, the perfect time to change those as well. I changed mine about a year ago, so I know they're fine. All right, so now we're at the point where we can remove the water pump. So now all of these bolts that need to come out, many of them are different sizes. They're going to be, most of them are size, as far as the ratchet that you'll need, or the socket you'll need size 13, number 13, and number 15 millimeter. I think all of them are 13, but one of them is a 15. As you can see, some of these have the screw sticking out, so a deep socket would be good for some of them. But here's the thing, they're all, not all, but many of them are different lengths or different purposes. Like this one has the thing for that bracket to go back on. So you want to remember where you take them out at. You can draw a diagram of this and to help you remember. I like to take the new water pump, set it down, and each time I take one of these out, whichever hole I take it out of, I just put this into the hole of the new water pump while it's laying on the ground. And then once I have this out, I'll transfer those from the new water pump and then just set them into the old water pump to remember where they were at. And then I'll put the new water pump in and then start transferring them back over in here. I find that to be pretty easy, but some people just draw a diagram onto some cardboard and then just punch holes in them and stick the bolts in there as they go along. All right, so my water pump actually won't be here till tomorrow. So I won't actually be sticking the water pump on till tomorrow, but in the video, it'll be one day. So I'm doing a crude drawing of it, and those dark circles represent where I'm finding bolts at. So I'm just gonna poke holes in there and stick the bolts in there as I go along. All right, you can see where that one is coming out, and there is a washer on the too. So at that point, I will go over here, and for my drawing, that will be the one that is right here. That will be the one that is right here. So I'll just make a hole in there. All right, and I'll keep along and do all of those just like that. This one is the 15 millimeter. There's another, look how long that one is, with the washer on it as well. And I have one right here underneath the AC compressor. That's going to be a 13. So I'll be switching back and forth between 13 to 15. Not as long as the last one, but pretty long. So there is one right down here. Let me get an extension. This is my 13 millimeter. All right, much smaller one. There's another one right behind this pulley, right there. Alright, so with my extension and my not deep socket 13, I'm gonna try it with this swivel attachment to get that particular bolt. Alright. Perfect. Alright, so that bolt that I used to swivel on, you can see that it came butt up against here, right? And you can't go out any further. But I think it's backed out far enough that once everything is over with and said and done, that I will be able to just take the water pump off with this like this. And I suspect that, I have poor memory as far as how I did it last time, but I suspect that I should be able to just kind of preset it inside the hole when I'm putting it back in there in the same manner, so it'll already be in here behind the power steering pump pulley. All right, now I'm going for the bolt right below here. This is where the lower big radiator hose goes. And another long bolt. Then you see this right here, right by where one of the heater hose outlets is. There is one right behind there. All right, and you're going to find another one underneath this pulley, straight back. Use your fingers as your guide. There it is. All right, almost done here. At least removing it. All right, we want to get this one here because there's 10 of the 13 millimeters and one of the 15 millimeters. Oh, that one was a bit hard. That was the only one that was hard. Super long one. And there's one right here under where the thermostat goes. Go. All right, and the last of the 13 millimeters, of the 10, 13 millimeters, should be right here. You see this bolt right here? Just go right below it, and that should be your last one. There we go. So all 10, 13 millimeters and the one 15 millimeter are all now out. So now we should be able to separate this from the engine block. There we go. And remember that one bolt I told you about? Here it is. Came out no problem. And remember, that's the one we're going to want to probably preset in there when we're trying to put it back together. Here's the underside. All right, so some of the things that can possibly go wrong with it, it could, where the rod that attaches to your metal propeller over here, it can start to leak on this side. Well, when I look inside there was no leak at all up in there at all. It's actually dusty in there, so it was definitely not leaking from there, because that was my issue. My fluid was leaking out. And then sometimes what will happen is your propeller may actually separate from out here. So this is turning, your fan is turning this, but this is either not turning at the right speed or not turning at all, not circulating your fluid around up in there. And then another thing may happen is you have this gasket here. This gasket may fail, usually on the bottom side, because the fluid is always resting down there. And that was what happened on one of the times I changed mine. Now, as far as this one goes, I think it may have been user-induced. I think maybe the gasket maker that I put on here actually helped to speed up the failure and cause for fluid to leak out down along here. I think that was what happened here. It didn't allow for this gasket to expand and when needed to keep that seal on there. So that may have been user induced right there. So that may have been, so simple. So I think the water pump is actually still fine. I think if I just change out this gasket, I should be okay, because the pump is still good. And I've already changed out, about 2 weeks ago, I changed out the thermostat, so I know we're fine over there. All right, so I brought the water pump in to get it all ready to get mounted, then we'll go back out to the car. If you have your water pump and you have something wrong with your propeller right here, or maybe something wrong on the outside where it's leaking, through here, leaking out, then in that case, you're probably going to replace the whole water pump, right? Maybe this got separated from it, so you have to replace it. But if you take a look and it turns out that your gasket just blew out, it got bad, and the only thing you really need to do is replace your gasket. At that point, you can just pick up a new gasket and replace it. In my case, after looking it all over, the water pump seems to be perfectly fine. And what I believe it was that you're not supposed to, I think I mentioned this out at the car, you're not supposed to, well, it comes with a gasket, so you don't need any type of sealant, any type of gasket maker in here. I did because the last time, one of the times I had to change it, it started leaking. This is the bottom, and it started leaking down here. And so my thought was, hey, when I change and put a new one on, I'm just going to put some extra sealant up around here just to give me that extra protection. So if the gasket fails, hopefully the gasket maker will make up the difference and keep it from leaking. And it turns out possibly I may have shortened the life of the gasket by using gasket maker in addition to the gasket. As you can see here, if you can tell, they're all raised up around there, right? This is the original one. It's all raised up higher than the level to help give you that seal when you press it on. But over here, it's almost completely flat. So I think the gasket maker actually did it a disservice, and that became the weak point and it started leaking out there. So I picked up a new gasket, paid 10 bucks for it by Felpro. And so we're just going to remove this one right here. And we're going to put in the new one, clean it all up, and go back out and just mount it back up. And if you got a new one, you're going to do the same thing too. You're going to take the gasket and you're going to put it in here and then go out and mount it. Now, I won't have to change over. Here's my my thermostat, and there are two, what are these, 12 millimeter bolts, two of them, 1, 2, that you just take off. Pop out the old pop out the thermostat too, and transfer it over to your new water pump. So that will be an additional thing you have to do. Just two bolts, pop them out, put it on the other. Again, I have gasket maker on here like I did down here, but with the other one, you don't have to put any type of gasket in there. There's a gasket made around the actual thermostat, so you don't need any separate gasket when you do that. All right, if you haven't changed it in a while, it'll be a good idea just to go ahead and pick up a new one and put a new thermostat in when you're doing it. Right, get that out of there. And I'm just going to clean up all of this off of here. And when you're cleaning this up, because you're going to want to clean up this side if you're reusing it, and you're also going to want to clean up the side on the engine side. And when you're doing that, use like a Brillo pad or something like that, or some type of soft scraper. Don't use anything sharp like a razor or anything like that, because you don't want to nick any of that, especially on the car side, because any little nick can result in a leak. All right, so I cleaned it up. I have the new gasket. All right. Holds in there pretty good. So when you put it on, you shouldn't have to worry about it falling out of place. Unless, of course, you bump it against something or scrape it against something as you're installing it. All right, just get it down up in there because it should be pointing pretty much straight up and down, not on an angle like that or angle like that. Should be almost, you know, just straight up and down the edge of that. All right. So again, if you bought a new one and you're replacing the whole thing, you're going to transfer this neck over with either your thermostat or the new thermostat you're going to be putting in there. You're going to put your gasket in and you're set to go. If you're reusing your old one and you just need to replace the gasket, well, you're not going to touch any of this. The only thing you're going to do is remove the old gasket, clean it up, and then put in a new gasket. So now that we have it all in there, let's take it on out to the truck and put her in. All right, so we're back out at the truck, getting ready to mount her. We're going to get that cleaned up down there a little bit. And one little thing, this is your oil pressure switch over here. If you're having that light come on regularly on a regular basis, out of the blue, it may be time to change that. This is a perfect opportunity. You have clear access to be able to get that changed out. All right. I actually have a YouTube video out there on how to change it. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and check out some of my other YouTube videos working on my Dodge Ram 1500. All right, so I think that's closed up pretty good, cleaned up pretty good. Now we're about to put her on, and make sure you have yourself some blue Loctite too for the bolts that you're going to be putting in. All right, not red, get the blue Loctite. Careful putting it on because you don't want to move that gasket around at all. All right, so I went on and removed this idler pulley up top, the upper idler pulley, simply because I think it's going to give me a better chance of putting the water pump directly on rather than trying to work around it and risk moving that gasket. Luckily the gasket is still all intact. So now you want to start putting your bolts in. You want to put your blue Loctite on, and you want to do it in a star pattern, starting with the center bolt. And you want to torque it to 18 foot-pounds. All right, so unfortunately I didn't beat the night light, Night came quick here in Wisconsin. It's about 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock p.m. right now. But I got it all done. Basically, however I did it in taking it apart, I just did it in reverse. So just follow that. Now I'm just going to be filling it up with some Dex Cool. I'm using Peak Dex Cool. It's like $10 a gallon over at your hardware store instead of going to the automotive store where it's expensive. I go to Menards. And I'll just pour it in there. I'll start her up and keep filling it up. Let the thermostat open up so it goes all through the engine. Let it run and get all the air bubbles out. Just let it keep running until it stops bubbling out air, because you want all the air out of there. Otherwise, you'll see your temp gauge fluctuate. All right, so I ran the car for about 30 minutes, kept topping it off. It will rise. I had a funnel in there so the extra fluid can rise into the funnel opposed to just spilling out. And then it'll drop down. The thermostat eventually opened and it dropped down. I kept topping it off. I have hot heat coming through now. You should run your heat on high the entire time you're doing it. That should help out. I believe a lot of air came out, and so I think I'm good now. Other than that, that's how you change out your thermostat or change the gasket on your thermostat. If you like, hit the like button and definitely hit that subscribe button. Thanks a lot.